All right, so looking at number 6 here, when we add these two fractions together, we have to remember that the whole goal is to get the denominators the same first. Now, my left denominator is just n minus 2, but my right denominator is a quadratic that can be factored. So before I do anything, I want to go ahead and try to factor that quadratic on the right side. So I'm looking for factors of negative 6 that would add up to 1. And so there's not many options here. 3 times 2 is 6, and I know that 3 minus 2 is 1. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 3 minus 2 is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write n plus 3 and n minus 2. I'm going to mark that out so I don't confuse myself. So I have factored the right denominator. Now, in doing so, looking at both denominators, I need them to be the same. They both have an n minus 2 already, so half the work is already done. I just need to get the n plus 3 over there on the left side. So I'm going to multiply the left side by n plus 3, and you can't multiply the bottom without multiplying the top or it changes the fraction. So multiplying the top and the bottom by n plus 3 means I'm halfway done. My denominator from this point forward does not change. It is n plus 3 times n minus 2. Now from there, I look at my numerators, and I need to add them together. This is an addition problem. So when you add fractions, all you do is add the numerators together. So when I want to add, it's a lot easier to add if I've distributed both sides first. So let me distribute that 3. 3 times n plus 3 times 3. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute the left side of my fraction first. Now I can add them together. Now we don't add everything, we add like terms. So I've got a 3n plus 1n, that would be 4n. And then I've got a 9 plus a negative 7. So that's a 9 minus 7. 9 minus 7 would be 2. So with adding fractions, we get the denominator the same. Then we add the tops together, distributing first to make it easier. So that's my final answer, fraction added together. All right, I also want to look at one on the back. I want to look at 10 just because it looks crazy. It's really not that bad. When you add things together, it doesn't really get a lot more difficult to add multiple things together. It just means there's a little bit more combining at the end. So again, my entire goal is I need all 3 of my denominators to be the same, which right now doesn't look very easy, but it actually will be here, because look at the far left one. It's a quadratic, which means I can factor it. So I'm looking for factors of 6 that will add up to 7, which is not too difficult. That'd be 1 times 6. So 1 times 6 is 6, 1 plus 6 is 7. Those are my numbers. So now I can write x plus 1 and x plus 6. Okay, now looking at all 3 denominators, they all have something in common. They just don't have everything in common. So the question is, what is lacking in each denominator? Now my first denominator is good. It has an x plus 1 already and an x plus 6. So it is taken care of. Now my second denominator has the x plus 6, but it's missing the x plus 1. So I need to multiply the middle one by x plus 1. Then I look at my last denominator. It already has the x plus 1, but it's missing the x plus 6. So again, just look at each one separately. Ask yourself, what does it have? What does it still need? And let each fraction have what it needs to complete the denominator. So now all 3 denominators have an x plus 1 and an x plus 6. And again, once your denominator is the same on all of them, you don't have to look at it again. That part is done. It's x plus 1, x plus 6. So now what we look at is the numerator. And on the numerator, all you do is add, and in this case, add and subtract everything together. And remember, we only add and subtract like terms, things that are the same. So I'm going to circle these so I don't forget to pay attention to them. And I'm going to distribute first. It's a lot easier to get an answer when you're distributing first. So 3x times x is 3x squared, and 3x times 1 is 3x. So I'll cross that out. And then 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 6 is 12. Okay? So I've got x plus 2 plus 3x squared plus 3x minus 2x plus 12. So I'm going to be adding and subtracting these together, and again, only combine like terms. So a quick glance of all of these terms together tells me that there's only one number that has a squared in it. So that one number that has squared in it is going to be all by itself. It's plus 3x squared. So that's my only quadratic term. Now, next would be all the linear terms, all the ones that just have x in them. So I've got 1x in the first one, plus 3x in the second one, minus 2x in the third one. So pay attention to those signs. So 1x plus 3x would be 4x, and then 4x minus 2x would be 2x. So adding all of those together, I've got just 2x. It is very important that you don't forget that this is a minus sign here at the end. So it's minus that positive 2x. Okay, and then lastly, look for any constants, any numbers that don't have an x with them. So I've got a 2 in the first one, nothing in the second one, and then I've got a 12 in the third one. It's being subtracted though, so be very careful of the subtraction sign. So 2 plus nothing, so still 2, and then minus 12. So 2 minus 12 is negative 10. Okay, so once I've added the top together, my denominator is already good. I can stop and box it in.